Scottsdale's McDowell Sonoran Preserve encompasses 30,000 acres of desert and 195 miles of trails, land that was bought by residents through an increase in their sales tax. But a fight over a planned desert education center in the preserve, called Desert Edge, has rocked the city. On the ballot November 6th is Proposition 420, which will decide the future of development in the preserve. We sat down with residents on both sides of the issue inside the preserve to hear what they had to say.
I'm Howard Myers. We're here at the Gateway Trailhead in the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. I am founder and president of Protect Our Preserve.
Hi, my name is Melinda Gulick, and I'm a longtime volunteer for the McDowell Sonoran Preserve.
And my name is Jason Alexander. I am the founder of the No DDC community group.
And I'm Virginia Cordy. I am currently a member of our Scottsdale City Council.
In 2007, when the Municipal Use Master Site Plan for the Gateway was approved by the City Council, so was an interpretive center then called the Desert Discovery Center. It included exhibits, interpretive space, a cafe, and a small gift shop. And so that's the plan we're trying to bring to life today.
The Desert Edge in and of itself is not our core objection. It's that the precedent would be set and the ordinance be changed to allow commercial development throughout the preserve.
The proposition on the ballot frankly has nothing to do with the Desert Edge, although I think the argument has been made about it for so long. Prop 420 is an unnecessary change to the city charter. The city charter is our constitution and it should be an evergreen document. The preserve is already protected today with the general plan, with zoning, with the environmentally sensitive land ordinance, and with the preserve ordinance. So the idea that we need to pass an amendment to our charter in order to protect the preserve is false. The preserve is protected today by the general plan, the preserve ordinance, the environmentally sensitive land ordinance, and zoning. But what Prop 420 does is it requires decisions outside of what we've already decided today about the preserve to go to a public vote, and that's concerning. So what about the unintended consequences of going to a public vote if there's, heaven forbid, a wildfire or a catastrophic flood or a very long, very significant drought, and we decide to add water holes for animals in the preserve? Would that have to go to a public vote?
One of their arguments is that that gives too much power to an unelected body. The unelected body we're talking about is the McDowell Sonoran Preserve Commission, which is appointed by the council, and their responsibility already under the current preserve ordinance is to do those trails and also the management plan for the preserve and a lot of other things. So they already have that responsibility. This is just kind of solidifying it, making it more difficult for a council to change that. Because the council can change the ordinance anytime they want with 4 votes. They can't change the charter without citizen approval. So this is just making it a little more difficult for them to try to change down the line. The fire stuff and all that, well, part of what we did back then was to have a fire management plan. It says exactly what you do in a fire emergency and all this. That stays in place. Nothing is impacted by 420. It doesn't mention anything about your emergency response measures and all that. That all stays in place, and that all was done years ago.
Proposition 420 simply closes an existing loophole and puts the decision in the hands of the citizens, not for politicians.
There's too many unintended consequences when you have words such as appropriate and maintain a natural state. What does that mean? It's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
The questions our opponents have raised regarding the specificity and complexity of the language are not necessarily bad questions as a jumping off point for a conversation, but we have consistently cited our very simple ballot language and pointed out fact by fact, bullet point by bullet point, where their questions are addressed, and they refuse to acknowledge that we've answered these questions. They constantly make criticisms without actually citing the ballot language.
We are a representative democracy, and our form of governance is a council and mayoral form of governance. We state that in our charter. Prop 420 is the beginning is the erosion, the very initial erosion of that form of government. Charter changes should not happen with political signs and political innuendo.
I'm voting yes on Proposition 420 because the citizens taxed themselves 5 times to set this land aside for preservation. If development is going to come in, it's our land, it's our taxes, it should be our vote. That simple.
A yes vote on Proposition 420 will do 2 things. First, it would require any development in the preserve other than trails and planned trailheads to go to voters. Second, it would limit preserve funds to buying land and preserving trails unless authorized by voters. A no vote would leave the city charter unchanged and allow a majority vote by the Scottsdale City Council to move forward with the proposed center.